planet's on fire. It's a real code red. Got us by the balls, we're being slowly bled. All the swollen puppet head, propagandized. Big chocolate points, flat outlines. A house full of mirrors, it's a lousy reflection. Run hard left, it's a true direction. Democracy's in trouble, this news isn't fake. Everything we fought for is truly at stake. Border to border, coast to coast, it's time to cue the talent and meet our host. It's Podcast by George. All right, folks, it's showtime.
Okay. Hello. Hi. How are you? Welcome on in to another special LiveLine edition from Podcast by George. And with any luck, this is going to be really special because we're really going to reach out. We're going to Scotland, folks. We're going to be talking to Nancy Mancias with Code Pink. And by way of introduction here very quickly, before we go to Nancy, she's a doctoral student at Anthropology and Social Change at the California Institute of Integral Studies. She holds a BA from the Dominican University of California and a BA in drama. Gotta love that, a fellow thespian. That's what I'd like to consider myself sometimes. From San Francisco State University, she's worked over 15 years in the nonprofit sector, focusing on social services, social justice, and theater. She's volunteered and visited the refugee camps in Greece and Kurdistan, Iraq, and provided migrant support on the U.S.-Mexican border. As an anti-war advocate, Mancias has been actively trying to bring the troops home from their overseas misadventures. She's also been part of the movement against torture and a proponent of closing the prison in Guantanamo. But today, this morning, she's joining Podcast by George in Glasgow, Scotland, as part of this COP26. It's the 26th conference on parties, but it's actually a big climate event out there. And Code Pink has a unique perspective on mitigating climate that I'm a big believer in. And let's bring her in and see if we can hear something about it. Hopefully this will go well, audio and video. Nancy, good morning from the heartland, straight to Glasgow, Scotland. How you doing out there?
I'm doing great, George. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I've got this little report from Common Dreams. It says a wave of action slated to take place in over 24 countries kicked off the 2 days before the United Nations COP26 summit in Glasgow. Protest rallies and other activities are set to continue through the summit's midpoint on November 6th. And I see a little of that in the background where you're at. Tell us what's happening.
Well, this is Nancy Mancias from the San Francisco Bay Area, here live in Glasgow, Scotland. And today is kicking off the opening with a procession ceremony of activists honoring the pilgrims who have marched, biked, flew, sailed their way to Glasgow, Scotland to have an alternative, to give an alternative narrative to COP26, which is happening here. Behind me, you'll see the procession is taking place. I'm speaking quietly because I want to honor this sacred moment.
Oh, that's great. Well, I also, just to get this a little explained, I wanted to bring up an excellent way to look at this is the petition that's on the, and I want to encourage everybody to go to codepink.org. Now, this is what Code Pink has written. Dear participants of the UN Climate Change Conference, as a result of final hour demands made by the U.S. government during negotiation on the 1997 Kyoto Treaty, military greenhouse gas emissions were exempted from climate negotiations. I know that's been a big sticking point with Code Pink. That tradition has continued. The 2015 Paris Agreement left cutting military greenhouse gas emissions to the discretion of individual nations. So, you know, there was no unity there. There was no force behind it. The UN Framework Convention on Climate Change obliges signatories to publish annual greenhouse gas emissions, but military emissions reporting is voluntary and often not included. Okay, so I just heard the broadcast click a little bit, and that means It's time to bring Nancy back in. So, I had talked to the folks at Code Pink about this, and I'd like for you to talk about it, Nancy. My belief is the biggest, most immediate impact that we can have on climate is to close some of these military bases that are ringing the planet, not only for the death and destruction that they spread needlessly, which I know Code Pink is adamantly opposed to, but because of the benefit, immediate benefit that
Hmm.
it can have for the climate. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And hopefully, you and your audience can hear me. The United
Yes.
States has over 900 U.S. military bases across the globe. That's more than any other country. And we feel that the funds that are being directed to keep these military bases open could be used at home and could be used to help slow the process of climate change. Instead of the military trying to figure out how to live with climate change, we need to come with solutions on how to slow it. And you're right, military greenhouse gas emissions are excluded from these climate talks. But there's not only our climate talks. Just think of things at home like the Green New Deal. Um, cl- Militarism needs to be included in these talks. And that's why we're here. We're hoping to lay the foundation here at COP26 and carry it over to the next COP. And we are working with a great coalition of partners. And this is just the beginning of bridging the topic of climate change and militarism.
And just by way of explanation, now this is a UN sponsored event out there. I know the IPCC, I think it's called. I mean, they've come out with dire warnings about climate. I mean, it's really bad. It's getting worse. Nothing is being done, nothing like what needs to be done, including here in the United States with these bills that are moving through Congress. It simply isn't enough. Now, I know there's a lot of excitement out there because you're just getting underway on the ground. People have got to be very hopeful. Well, what's your take on it, Nancy? Is this going to be? I mean, I'm struck by what Greta Thunberg said. You know, the 18-year-old activist. She talked about blah blah blah. Is this just going to be a bunch of talk out there? Yeah, or do you think something more is going to become of this? It has to start with talk. There has to be policies agreed upon and that type of thing. But is this going to move forward and result in some real positive change, do you think?
Well, what's exciting about this COP26 is that Greta Thunberg will be here. And for a young woman, she really has a lot of foresight. And it is going
Yeah.
to be a lot of talk and no action. So, this COP26 is, if anything, a complete farce. And why do I say that? I say that because the global south is not included in these talks. These are talks that are led by Western countries. We're talking about France, the UK, the United States, and other Western countries. So the complete global South is not included in these talks. But what is included are the global South activists here at the COP26 on the ground. We have activists from the globe, across the globe, who have been able to get into the country. The UK has set up a fortress, which makes it difficult for folks from the global South to attend even the parallel People Summits organized by the COP26 coalition. But I can tell you that we're going to be in the streets calling out the climate criminals, calling out the war profiteers, and calling out COP26 and its greenwashing.
Well, as I mentioned, this idea of closing some of these military bases, God, just close maybe a third of them. That the change to the climate would be massive. People just don't realize the U.S. military is the largest institutional polluter on the planet, emitting more greenhouse gases than a lot of countries. If they could do that, it would be a win. Another win-win would be if they could use these resources that we're devoting to militarism
Mm-hmm.
to mitigating climate, both at home and abroad. I mean, it's just exactly the type of thing that needs to be done. And to my mind, it may be the only thing that can be done at this late stage to save us all. Now, people are making a big deal about Biden over there. He may stop by. I know you're probably more excited about seeing Greta speak than Biden. What do you expect to come from the U.S. leaders? I think Obama's taken an interest in this, but they're just simply not doing enough, it seems to me like.
Yeah, I agree. They are simply not doing enough. And what we have here in Glasgow is 2 days, November 1st and 2nd. Oops, sorry, the procession is starting behind me. Um, so what we have is November 1st and November 2nd are the 2 days from leaders from all over the globe who will take the stage and grandstand and talk about their solutions and their plans and how we need a greener, cleaner planet. But there isn't going to be any concrete solutions, and that's very disappointing. President Biden will be here with his full cabinet, and it'll be a diplomatic relationship building for them. But if anything, I don't expect a whole lot out of this. Out of these talks, unfortunately, but what I am hopeful is the convergence of movements from all over, movements from the anti-war movement, climate change movement, food solidarity movement, peasants' rights movements. I'm really, really excited about that.
Well, I'm excited about Code Pink. I love Code Pink, and we're seeing exactly why with Nancy over there because they don't just talk it like what she's mentioning here. They walk it. I mean, this is direct action that they're involved in. This is what Code Pink does. And the way that I put it to people on my podcast, Nancy, and it sounds like we've lost her just momentarily here. Hopefully she'll come back on again. She's just out there with a phone in the middle of this demonstration. But the way that I put it to people on the podcast, there's so many people that are unhappy about so many things in this country, and we're so mistrustful, and rightfully so. There she's back. I was telling people, Nancy, that everybody is so unhappy and mistrustful of so many of our institutions here in the United States. And what Code Pink would tell people, I would assume, is it's up to us. It's a direct action that needs to be taken now, doing things like what you're doing to stop this, because all of these other issues, I tell people all of the time, they don't make any difference if you're dead. I mean, if a bomb falls from the sky and kills you as an innocent civilian, as it has around the globe over the past decades with a U.S. emblem on it, it doesn't make any difference how many petitions and how many demonstrations you participate in. Being dead will ruin your day. It will end your life, and it has done so for so many people. This is an opportunity to actually extend life, to actually keep people alive, both at home and abroad around the planet. And we keep losing Nancy. But that's my point. And I just want to put this forward. Let's see if we can get her back in here. There she is coming back on. Nancy's back on. Well, Nancy, you're kind of in and out, but that's the nature of live television, live internet broadcast. Oh, there goes a siren. That's good. We got a little natural sound going. Give us a little closer here as you head off to participate in this. Give us a wrap up. Appreciate you coming on today.
People can go to our Code Pink website, sign the petition,
Yes,
organize a solidarity action in their community. We've identified November 4th as a International Day of Action on Climate and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to learn more about the action. But if you want to organize a solidarity action, if you're here in Glasgow, please join us. We have a whole week, 2 weeks of actions. We're going to be on the street calling for war is not green, calling for no war, no warming. Today is just the start of it, and we plan on being in action in the next 2 weeks.
That's great. And again, I appreciate you coming on from all the way over. That's what I love about Code Pink. When people come on a podcast like mine and they come on immediately, I know that they're fervent. I know that they're honest, and I know that they're telling the truth. She doesn't have anything to hide. She's committed out there, and she's doing the work that needs to be done. God love her. That's just great. Nancy Mancias, thanks again for coming on this special LiveLine edition of Podcast by George from Glasgow, Scotland.
Thank
Ah,
you.
yeah, that's great. Well, we've got a little internet issue, and again, I'll say, Nancy, as we leave, if there's some other time that you want to come back on, just get a hold of me, and we'll put this back on another live line. But good luck, stay safe, travel safe and well, and do your best out there. And let's see if we can get something done, for God's sake. I know Medea Benjamin is always talking about that. Let's do something, folks. If you believe in this cause, go to their website, sign that petition, give them some money, go to the events that she's talking about. Let's get something done before it's too late. No more blah, 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 as Greta Thunberg says. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I want to just tell everybody once again, as I always do, thanks for watching Podcast by George, our special live line editions here on YouTube, also on Facebook. That's where the video broadcasts are put on. You can also follow us on audio on all of the audio podcast platforms. Go to iTunes, go to Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, places like that, and you subscribe there. But I always encourage people to go to YouTube. I mean, that's a great place. You can subscribe, ring the notification bell, and you'll be sure to get every single live line edition of Podcast by George. But that's going to do it. That's going to wrap it up. That's all there is, and there ain't no more. That's another podcast by George.